Hello everyone, my name is Ben, hitting you again with another deck profile today. Now, this deck in particular is one that's a little bit more closer to my heart. With the recent release of EX9, it is time to finally give you guys my brand new list for Megadramon. But this isn't going to be your traditional Megadramon list. It is by far and large the most strongest, and dare I say it, most degenerate Megadramon deck I have ever created. So buckle up everyone, let's get to the deck profile. Before we get into the deck profile, I gotta mention that this video is sponsored and made in collaboration with Avault. He was so kind to give me this brand new Mega Machine mat. Now, when it comes to Digimon playmats with sick art, Avault always delivers. With such a sleek and simplistic design that doesn't take away from the art itself. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, it even comes with a sick personalized bag for easy portability. If you want to get your hands on this merch, be sure to check out the link in the description down below, and be sure to type in the code BENBEN5 for 5% off on all your Mega Machine items. Now back to the video. Alright everybody, we got camera 1 and we have camera 2. And of course, since it is a sponsored video, we have to use the brand new Mega Machine playmat for this video, so that you guys get to see some sick art as I show you guys some cards around. Now, like usual with my deck profiles, I usually like to start off with the main focus of the deck. What exactly are we trying to do? And normally, you'd be correct to think that I should normally start off with the level 6s of the deck, as they're usually the main core part of our strategy. However, for this deck profile, it's going to be a little bit different. The actual main purpose of the deck is that we're going to be trying to resolve one of our 3 copies of the brand new BT-22 Kimeramon. Now see, originally this card was meant to support the Millenniumon strategy. However, I found that it's actually secretly good at supporting the Machinedramon strategy as well. Now for those of you who don't know what it does, it has the really cool effect of on play when digivolving. By deleting one of our own Digimon, we can delete one of our opponent's level 5, level 4, and level 3 Digimon respectively. But that also pairs in really nicely with the on deletion effect of, by deleting one of our own level 4 or lower red or purple Digimon, we can play one Machinedramon from our trash without paying the cost. Gone are the days of hard playing a machine and passing turn, when we can actually have this Kimeramon to play on machines for free, potentially keeping turn and then doing a whole bunch of damage. Now, despite being a core part of our strategy, it itself is unfortunately not a cyborg. So for that reason, we can actually get pretty clumped with many copies of this in our hand. We only need to resolve this once or even twice a game at most. Because of the way I've constructed my Machinedramon deck, as soon as we bring out the Machinedramon, the game is practically over. But more on that when we get to our other level 5s. So now that we know that the Kimeramon is going to be the main core part of our strategy in order to cheat our Machinedramons out, the next question becomes, what are our targets? Well, to answer that question, our main target for this deck is going to be our 3 copies of the EX1 Megadramon. Now, I'm sure you guys all know what this card is already, but for those of you who are brand new to Machine, it has the very nifty ability of on play by placing up to 5 level 5 cyborgs that are red or black underneath it as a source. We can gain 1 memory, meaning that if we are able to resolve that Kimeramon's on deletion effect, despite us paying 4 memory to digivolve into him, we can actually gain that memory back with the EX1 machine. At full value, we'll be getting actually net 1 memory from it, hence why it is our main target. And like all the machines, it also has the all turns effect of when it would be deleted, it can trash 2 level 5 sources in order to keep it around. Solid protection all around, but it comes in really clutch when we get to the other level 5s of our deck as part of the combo. Now, of course, there was a brand new Machinedramon that was released in EX9, and we are actually playing 1 copy of it as well. But the main reason as to why we are playing only 1 copy of the EX9 machine as opposed to our EX1s is mainly because of the assembly. Like the previous EX1 machine, we are able to potentially get 5 machines underneath him as sources. However, in order to get the assembly off specifically, we need to have 4 cyborgs of different names and all in our trash, as opposed to the EX1 machine that can get sources from our hand or our trash. Setting up our trash with 4 cyborgs with all being different names is a little bit hard to do, at least consistently. But this card is still rather useful because unlike the EX1 machine, assembly is a cost reduction. A minor weakness of the Machinedramon strategy before is that if you were under the lingering effect of attack of the heavy mobile Digimon, all of your machines will be getting rush and blitz. However, if you're under 2 memory, you will not be able to pay the average memory of 12 memory for your Machinedramons. meaning that if you're at 1 or even 0 memory, it can be rather difficult to find that last swing for game, and that is when assembly comes in. Because it is a cost reduction, if you manage to fulfill the assembly condition, this will cost exactly 6 memory, meaning that you are allowed to play this when you are under 2 memory. And of course, it does have a very strong ability of on play, when digivolving, and when attacking. We can place in one level 5 cyborg from our hand or our trash, and then by doing so, we'll be able to copy its on play effect. Super strong. However, in my opinion, for this variant of the deck at least, there aren't many good level 5s to copy with just as good inheritable effects. So if anything, this is more seen as like my hybrid for game, while also being a rather solid option to go into, but not going to be our main one. And that is why we only play 1 copy. But lastly, to round off our machines, we do still gotta play 2 copies of the EX3 Chaosdramon. The primary reason as to why we are using this card is because it is going to be another machine that we can digivolve our EX1 Machinedramon into, in order to add, or to be more specific, reuse sources that get trashed. But more info on that one in the combo tutorial later. And of course, its alternate effect of being able to prevent itself from being bottom decked or being returned to hand really does come up for very specific matchups. And of course, having the ability to de-digivolve our opponent as we're adding more sources never hurts anyone. But usually our machines are more than enough in order to close out games, and that's primarily why we only play 2 copies. A Machinedramon stack is only as strong as its sources, and that's why it's very important to think about your level 5 sources carefully. And with the recent release of EX9, we have to play 2 copies of the brand new Megadramon. It having the effect of on play when digivolving with placing 1 Digimon card from our trash underneath it as a source as face down. We could then delete 2 of our opponent's play cost 4 less Digimon. But for every face down source underneath, we increase that threshold by 1, which is pretty solid removal considering we can kill 2 things. And all DM level 5s come with the sick ability of reducing their play cost by 2 so long as we discard a cyborg or the respective version. But that's not the real reason why we play 2 copies of this card. The real reason why we play 2 copies of this card is for that really good inheritable effect of end of attack. By unsuspending the Digimon, we can delete one of our own Digimon with the lowest level. Now, you might be thinking that's actually more of a detriment considering we have to delete one of our own guys, especially if machine is the only thing on the field. But the thing is, with the old machine or even the old chaos, their alternate effect of being able to prevent themselves from being deleted is not restricted to your opponent's effects only. It also applies to our own effects. Meaning that if we use this end of turn inheritable effect of being able to unsuspend our Machinedramon, when we would go to delete our own Machinedramon, we could then use this alternate effect to save itself by trashing 2 sources. And one of the things you can trash is the Megadramon himself. And this is exactly what I mean by reusing these sources, because normally this effect is a once per turn. However, if you then digivolve that stack into something like the Chaosdramon, for example, you could then use this effect to slide in that Megadramon that you just used right back underneath, essentially using its turn to unsuspend again. Can you see where I'm going with this? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this Megadramon essentially allows our Machinedramon to OTK. And especially since we're going to be able to bring out our Machinedramon for free, that basically means that as soon as we resolve that Kimeramon, it is essentially game over. And that is precisely why this is the only cyborg that we play 2 copies. We definitely want to see this in rotation. And the rest is essentially one-ofs. We are playing 1 copy of the brand new Oblivimon, primarily using it for its inheritable. Your turn, this Digimon's attack target can't switch, further solidifying the OTK part of our strategy. But we are also playing 1 copy of the Cyberdramon, its inheritable effect of giving plus 4,000 power. But let's not also forget that it's on play and when digivolving effect, allowing us to make our opponent lose a card from their hand, can come up in the very early stages of the game, buying us more time to fulfill our combo. We are also playing 1 copy of the EX9 Metalgreymon, primarily using it for its inheritable effect of security attack plus 1, because if you combine this with the EX9 Megadramon, that essentially means that Machinedramon can swing for 4 checks. Super important for enabling our OTK. 1 copy of the Andromon just for blocker. I find this one to be rather cuttable. If you wanted to, I would actually replace this with a brand new BT-22 Greymon, giving us another inheritable of a security attack plus 1, and also having the very strong effect of when digivolving, so long as you have 1 or fewer Tamers, we get to play 1 red or black Tamer with a play cost of 4 or less for free. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a level 5 cyborg that can finally play Analog Man from our hand for free. Definitely a worthy replacement for this Andromon. Want to copy the MetalTyrannomon for piercing, but it also is a rather decent level 5 to copy up for the EX9 Machinedramon, it having the effect of on play when digivolving by placing 1 Digimon card from our trash underneath it as a source face down. We can then de-digivolve our opponent's Digimon based on how many face down sources we have, and then we can delete one of our opponent's Digimon with 3k DP or less. At worst, it is essentially a copy of the BT-8 Metalgreymon. One copy of the BT-15 Megadramon as well, it having the inheritable effect of D-Dissolve 1, very useful for our Machinedramon to avoid any potential aces our opponent might be setting up, and also is a decent ability to copy for our EX9 Machinedramon, again, being able to trash the top 3 cards of our deck while also adding one more Machine or Cyborg to our source, and another one to our hand. And of course, one copy of the brand new Wargrowlmon X antibody, primarily using it for the inheritable effect of Security Attack +1 yet again. So if you are using the Rise Greymon, we now have 3 level 5 cyborgs with Security Attack +1, allowing us to further guarantee our OTK. And last but certainly not least, one copy of the brand new BT-21 Wargrowlmon. It having the effect of on deletion, we get to trash our opponent's top security. So if say our opponent only has 1 security left and we have yet to use our Megadramon's inheritable, we could then just simply delete ourselves, trashing that last security without giving our opponent any chance of hitting something nasty in security. And if for example our opponent checks something like his kill spell in security that would kill our Machinedramon and we don't really care anymore about keeping it around, we could simply just delete it and then trigger this Wargrowlmon to trash another security. But the final reason as to why we are playing this card into our deck is going to be answered when we get to the actual low-end core, which will be talked about very, very soon. And those are our mere 10 level 5 cyborgs. And now we get to level 4s, which is going to be giving away the main engine of this strategy. And I did in fact warn you guys that the strategy that I created is rather degenerate. So without further ado, I'm sure some of you might be able to see this coming. We are playing the Guilmon package. 4 copies of the BT-21 Growlmon, and 4 copies of the Growlmon X antibody. Starting off with the Growlmon first, for those of you who don't know what it does, it has the effect of, when Digivolving, we can delete one of our opponent's 4K or less Digimon. Pretty useful for getting around floodgates, but if we don't delete anything, we trash the top 2 cards of our deck. Very useful for filling up our trash with level 5 cyborgs. And that inheritable of on deletion gaining a memory means that after we digivolve into the Kimeramon and delete ourselves, we refund that evolution cost in the process. And of course, the card that everyone knows and hates that goes with it, the Growlmon X antibody. When digivolving, we get to draw 1 card from our hand and then trash a card, essentially meaning that when we digivolve, we draw 2 cards instead of 1, and so long as that has the Growlmon or X antibody underneath them, the entire stack gains the effect of on deletion. We get to play 1 card with Guilmon in its name from our trash without paying the cost. This is the whole reason why this combo works. Essentially what this means that after we digivolve our Growlmon into say something like the Growlmon X antibody, if we digivolve into the Kimeramon and use this effect to delete itself, that will then trigger the Growlmon X as well as the Kimeramon's on deletion in sequence. We can then resolve the Growlmon X antibody effect first, be able to play a Guilmon, which is normally a red or purple level 4 or below, which then allows us to fully resolve our Kimeramon, deleting it, and then play our Machinedramon for free. If you're still having trouble visualizing the combo, we'll be sure to go over it properly in the combo tutorial. But this engine is so strong, I'm sure that everyone is already sick of it by now. If we ever so desire, we can obviously use this as an aggro engine, but we are primarily going to be using this to trigger the BT-19 Kimeramon, as well as getting some extra draw power. In all honesty, I do hope that Bandai hits this combo soon, or at the very least, please hit the Growlmon X antibody. This card is very annoying to deal with. But until then, I'm gonna abuse it myself. Machinedramon is the bad guy after all. And now moving on to level 3s, or more specifically, what Guilmons are we going to try to have our Growlmon X play out for free? Well, first starting off, we do have to play 4 copies of the strongest Guilmon in the package. We are playing the BT-21 Guilmon, it having the effect of on play. By trashing 1 Guilmon, Growlmon, or Gallantmon in its name, we get to draw 2 cards, further adding the incentive as to why we are playing 1 copy of that BT-21 Wargrowlmon. And it also pairs in really nicely with the Wargrowlmon X antibody too. They are cyborgs and also discardable for our Guilmon in order to get more draw power. And of course, that inheritable effect is what really makes this engine work, of on deletion gaining a memory, further refunding our combo for that BT-19 Kimeramon. Definitely the main level 3 we want to be seeing here, and that is why we play 4 copies. Following up, we are playing only 3 copies of the Guilmon X antibody, it having the effect of on play when digivolving, we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, get a Growlmon or Gallantmon in its name to our hand, or an X antibody, which spoilers we don't actually play any, but it also has the inheritable effect of gaining a memory whenever we delete our opponent's Digimon, which does give incentive as to why we play 3 copies, but we only play 3 because a lot of the times its search effect is going to bottom deck some rather key important pieces. It's going to be primarily useful for finding the engine half of our deck, and that is why we only play 3 copies instead of the usual 4. But to round off our level 3s, we are playing one copy of the EX4 Guilmon as another source of our hybrid for game type of card, and we are also playing one copy of the Guilmon as well. It may be a rather old one, but it does have the effect of on deletion. If it's deleted by an effect, we get to gain a memory, meaning that if we do manage to get the full combo and already have this in trash, we can essentially gain another memory whenever we use the Kimeramon combo, giving us way more memory value when we go into our Machinedramon play. Now, we are playing one more rookie in our deck as well, which is the one copy of the BT-16 Ukkomon, but that is because I found that I felt that I needed to be playing 10 rookies in order to make our deck a little bit more well-rounded. Now, if you really wanted to, you probably could place this as more copies of the BT-3 Guilmon. However, I really do value the search effect, and it really is the strongest turn 1 play for an aggro core like this. So I don't really feel that much downside if I'm playing one copy. However, if you wanted to replace this, I could definitely say you could replace this for something like a memory boost of some sort. And now moving on to our Digitamas, I'm sure this is a surprise to no one, especially when you realize that we are playing the Guilmon engine. We do have to be playing 4 copies of the promo Gigimon. It having the effect of on deletion being able to return a Growlmon or Gallantmon in its name back into our hand, which is such a useful effect in order to make sure that we recycle our Growlmons. Because what that essentially means is that after we promote and say we digivolve into something like a Growlmon followed by a Growlmon X, that means that we can actually swing with it that same turn. And if for whatever reason, if it dies, we could then just use the effect of being able to play a Guilmon for free, and then the Gigimon will be able to get one of those pieces right back into our hand. AKA, in case you guys haven't realized it, this egg essentially states that with the Guilmon engine, we have free aggression. And let's not forget about the fact that they can get something back like the Wargrowlmon or the Wargrowlmon X antibody from the Gigimon's on deletion effect, meaning if say we discarded these from something like the Analog Man in order to gain a memory and draw a card, we could then get it back in order to discard it again on the following turn, or just using it as discard fodder for our BT-21 Guilmons for more draw power. This egg truly is so versatile for what the Guilmon engine can do. There really isn't any other egg better than it. And now we move on to our Tamers. This is going to be the solidifying part of our engine to make sure that we have maximum consistency. And of course, speaking of consistency, we do have to be playing 4 copies of the EX1 Analog Youth. This card has been abused time and time again, and it's honestly a miracle that this has dodged the ban list all this time. But like I said before, if they ain't gonna ban it, I might as well abuse it. It having the effect of on play, we get the real top 3 cards of our deck, get 1 Digimon card from among them into our hand, and then trash the rest. Very useful for setting up trash, but it also having the alterns effect. Whenever a level 5 or higher Digimon with sources gets deleted, we can then suspend it to gain a memory and then hatch another egg. Meaning that after we are able to successfully resolve a Kimeramon combo, we can then hatch an egg and then gain another memory. In case you haven't noticed, when we do our big Machinedramon combo, we're going to be gaining a whole bunch of memory. And if that wasn't enough, did you know that this guy combos perfectly well with the EX9 level 5s? Because the EX9 level 5s have the effect of being able to place a face-down source underneath them, which Analog Youth himself doesn't actually care if they're actual regular Digimon evolution sources, they only care if they're evolution sources, period. Which those face-down sources count, meaning that if we ever are in a situation that we need to start hard playing our EX9 level 5s in order to try to control board, if they ever get outed for whatever reason, these Analog Youths can then steal memory from our opponent, potentially bringing it back to us, buying us more time for us to do the full combo. This card is just too versatile and super broken, hence why we play 4 copies. And lastly, to round off our Tamers, we are playing 2 copies of the old BT-11 Analog Man. Now, I do understand that there's a EX9 Analog Man as well, but the condition for him to gain a memory and draw a card is a little bit lackluster. You see, unlike the Cool Boy from BT-20, that Analog Man only triggers its effect to gain a memory and draw a card whenever we play a level 5 cyborg, meaning that we're never going to really get that ability to draw an extra card or gain a memory unless if we are either A, playing our level 5 cyborgs, which we don't normally want to do, or if we're already committed and bringing out our Machinedramon from the combo. We see the problem with that is, as I've already established, by the moment I bring out that Machinedramon, I've essentially already won, meaning that extra memory gain and draw won't really help all that much. Instead, I'd rather have the Analog Man here because it's always able to cycle our level 5 cyborgs that we have stuck in our hand, potentially finding our pieces to the combo a lot more quicker. And it also has the effect of being able to redirect our opponent's attack to our level 6 machines, so that if we are ever in a situation that we need to bring out our machine early and we just need to have a little bit more defensive staying power, this Analog Man is actually able to help us survive. And that is why we're only playing 2 copies of the Analog Man here and no copies of the brand new EX9 Analog Man. And finally, we have to get to the options and text of the deck. And of course, it wouldn't be a Machinedramon deck if we aren't playing at least 4 copies of our main key option, Attack of the Heavy Mobile Digimon. Apologize for the fact that this is the only one that's not in the black border foiling, but that's also because I never thought I would be needing 4 copies in my life. So I only bought 3. But for this deck in particular, I figured that it's really important that we play 4 in order to make sure that it's the maximum amount of consistency of seeing it, because there is a lot of milling in this strategy. This card is the sole reason as to why we are able to actually close games in the first place, because this is what allows our machines to have rush, as well as having blitz in case we need to have that one last extra swing for game. So personally, I don't see any reason to run any less than 4 copies. And of course, it also doubles up as a sort of security bomb when we check it in security. So if anything, this card is honestly more of a win-win in my book. And to finally round out the one of the deck, we are playing 1 copy of Calling from the Darkness, Garnet Memory Boost, and Medieval Gallantmon. Calling from Darkness for obvious reasons. It is a limited one of after all. Being able to delete our own Digimon and get any 2 purple Digimon from our trash back into our hand is very useful, being able to recycle pieces in case we just need it for the combo. And like I said, the Guilmon engine is already free aggression. So if for whatever reason we were a little too aggro, this Calling from Darkness will always keep us safe from getting punished from overextending. We are playing 1 copy of the Garnet Memory Boost because it is a solid searcher, being able to find the top 3 cards of our deck and find any red or black Digimon from among them instead of the usual one or the other. But it is important to note that we can only use this as long as we have red or black as our color requirements. And in case you haven't noticed, the Gigimon for our egg is purple. So if for whatever reason we are starving for a rookie, having Garnet Memory Boost in our hand does fundamentally nothing. Originally, I was actually playing 3 copies of this card, but eventually I started cutting it down to 2 to put in that 4th Analog Youth, because I just found that to be a lot more consistent. But then eventually I ended up bringing this down to 1 in order to fit that 1 copy of the BT-16 Ukkomon, because at that point, if I'm at a point where I only find the Garnet Memory Boost copies, I'd rather just at least have a rookie to try to get some more searching going on. So that's why I like it at 1 copy. If you wanted to, you probably could just cut the Ukkomon back for the 2nd copy of the Garnet Memory Boost, but I was a little scared in not seeing a rookie in my opening hand, so I felt that the Ukkomon was just a little bit better. And last but certainly not least, we are playing 1 copy of the Medieval Gallantmon. It is just a really polarizing card. It's just so good at being able to bring us back into the game. For those of you who don't know what it does, we can bring this out for a reduced cost of 4, so long as we suspend any 2 Digimon on the field, including our opponents. And then it also has the effect of Alliance and Vortex, meaning it can attack an opponent's Digimon even if it was the turn it was played. And last but certainly not least, that very strong wind digivolving effect of we can suspend one of our opponent's Digimon and then delete one of our opponent's 8k or less Digimon, but for every other suspended Digimon, that threshold increases by 3k. And not to mention that alternates effect triggering whenever any Digimon is played, including himself. This card is very expensive for very obvious reasons. This essentially has become the new Death X of the format. So if you ever find yourself in a position where you're in a bit of a slower game, this Medieval Gallantmon can really come in clutch to buy you time. But the neat thing is, because there's a Gallantmon in name, we can always get it back whenever we want, thanks to the Gigimon inheritable. And on matchups where it's dead, we can simply discard it for the BT-21 Guilmon. The fact that it's so good while also being an engine is too good to pass up. Now, I also understand though that this might not be the most budget option, so if you wanted to, you can actually replace this for the promo Gallantmon instead. It having the effect to reduce his play cost by 2 for every 5 cards in both players' trash, so it's actually quite easy to get him out for relatively cheap, but its own effect of having rush or blocker means that we're able to actually use this offensively for another swing for game, or defensively in case we want to stall our opponent out. And let's not forget, of course, the effect of on-play when digivolving. We can delete 1 Digimon with 13k or more, and if we don't, we get to recover 1. Now keep in mind, this effect is mandatory, so meaning that if the Machinedramon is the only Digimon on the field with 13k or higher, we have to delete it. But of course that plays in quite nicely with the alternates effect of the Machinedramon to protect itself, meaning we just get a free recovery in the process. And if you wanted to delete it, we could then trigger something like the BT-21 Wargrowlmon as well, triggering the effect to trash our opponent's security again. However, I must say that if you are planning to run that card over the Medieval Gallant, I would highly recommend taking out one of our cyborgs, say the Andromon for example, for another level 5 cyborg that can make our Machinedramon 13k or higher. In case you haven't noticed, we are not playing the Chaosdramon X antibody, meaning that none of our machines will ever be 13k or higher unless we find 1 copy of our power gainer Cyberdramon. So that means it makes it more incentive to replace this for another power gainer of sorts. I highly would recommend something like the Metalgreymon Alteris mode, with the exact same inheritable. Alright, it's combo tutorial time. I know throughout this video I kept on mentioning about resolving the Kimeramon combo, but let's go over on what exactly a turn like that looks like. So, we're going to take an example hand like this with an already set up trash with a Machinedramon already in it, and then we can pretend that we have the Growlmon in raising as well as the BT-22 Guilmon as an inheritable underneath. And of course we're going to be setting up our opponent's security at 5 just to give an example as to how this OTK works. And without further ado, it's time to begin. We're going to be starting off our turn by promoting up the Growlmon here. And then from our hand, we're going to be digivolving it into the brand new Growlmon X antibody, allowing us to draw another card and then discard a card. I'm not going to be showing that here to make this combo a lot more simplified. And now this entire stack itself has the effect of on deletion. We get to play one Guilmon from our trash without paying the cost. Now, we can then get to digivolve it into the Kimeramon here. Using its effect, we can then delete ourselves, and in order to delete one of our opponents level 3, level 4, and level 5, doesn't really matter if our opponent has anything. If you actually kill something, it's just a bonus. But then we can resolve the on-deletion effects in sequence. I'm going to be resolving the Growlmon and the Guilmon effect here to gain 2 memory. Also, I apologize. Normally, when I digivolve into the Kimeramon, I would be paying 4 memory here, so we would have refunded 2 memory back. And then with that, we would then be able to use something like the Gigimon in order to get something back into our hand. Let's see, we'll get the Growlmon X antibody. Why not? More recursion never hurt anybody. And then from there, we would then be able to resolve the Growlmon X antibody's effect and then playing out that Guilmon, using the effect to discard a Growlmon in name. Let's say we discard that Growlmon X, we just add back into our hand to draw 2 more cards, in case we may be missing something for that matter. And now, because we resolved it in this order, we can now resolve the BT-22 Kimeramon's effect to delete 1 red or purple level 4 or lower Digimon, like that Gigimon we just played out, in order to play 1 Machinedramon from our trash for free. We're going to be playing out that EX1 Machinedramon here, and then from here we can then use the on-play effect, allowing us to add up to 5 level 5 Cyborgs with different numbers underneath them, and gain 1 memory for each. I'm going off the assumption that I have all 5 Cyborgs set up here, so we're going to set up the best possible ones right now, with the Wargrowlmon, the Metalgreymon, Cyberdramon, Oblivimon, and of course, the brand new EX9 Megadramon, gaining 5 memory in the process. So from here, even though we were at 0 memory to begin with, and then we go down to -4, we are now ending with net positive 3 memory. Super strong. And now that we finally have black on our field, we can now resolve the attack of the heavy mobile Digimon, discarding 1 machine or cyborg here, in order to make sure that all my machines have rush, as well as so long as they have sources, they're allowed to blitz as well. We're going to be putting this option over here for reference, and now we're going to be having that Machinedramon attack our opponent's security. And keep in mind, the Oblivimon means that they cannot redirect this attack for whatever reason, and we also are with 4,000 more DP, which means that we are now swinging for 15,000. Rather safe. We're going to be checking 2 checks here. Like so. And then, because of the new EX9 Megadramon, we can then use the effect to unsuspend this Digimon for cost, and then delete one of our Digimon of the lowest level. As you can see, we have no other Digimon on the field, so we have to delete the Machinedramon, but that is exactly what we want, because we are now going to trash the Megadramon here, as well as one other source, but it doesn't really matter, because we have the Chaosdramon in our hand. And then because we have the Chaosdramon in our hand, we can then pay 1 memory to digivolve the Machinedramon into that Chaosdramon, and then, as I said before, this Chaosdramon is going to be able to suck in 3 more sources, which means that we are able to recycle the sources that we just discarded, like the Megadramon and the Oblivimon, and because we put that Wargrowlmon X antibody in our trash as well, we can then put this in as well. And then by doing so, the Chaosdramon is now able to swing for 3 checks this time. 1, 2, and 3, and then we are reusing that Megadramon's end of attack by unsuspending the Digimon for cost. We're able to delete our Digimon of the lowest level. We'll just trash these 2 sources right here, and now the Chaosdramon is able to swing for game. And now keep in mind, we are still at 2 or more memory, meaning that if we had another Machinedramon in our hand, if for whatever reason they're able to block this attack or just get rid of it from something like a security bomb, we can actually just hard play one of our machines, even for net 12 memory, and as long as we add 1 source in, the attack of the heavy mobile Digimon will allow us to still blitz for game. This is the most optimal line for the OTK, but there are many different lines to OTK with this strategy, so long as you play it right. Hence why I said that you probably could replace the Andromon for another security tech +1 in order to swing for a lot more checks, so that you don't have to rely on the EX9 Megadramon all too much if you don't see it. Like say for example, the Andromon was a security attack +1 inheritable, and we didn't have the EX9 Megadramon underneath as a source. We can then be put in a position where the Machinedramon attacks for 4 checks instead of 3, and then if for whatever reason we get the Machinedramon to die, it says something like the Calling from Darkness, or we use the promo Gallantmon, being able to delete our Machinedramon. We could then trigger the effect of the Wargrowlmon effect on deletion in order to trash our opponent's security, and that promo Gallantmon could swing for game, or again, because we have Attack of the Heavy Mobile Digimon live, any one of our machines could just be hard played and then slide any source to swing for game. This combo is broken! And that's the list. What do you guys think of the deck? See, I already had the pleasure of taking this to my local scene, and let's just say that every single one of my friends were rather annoyed at the list that I concocted, at the very least. I mean, I think we can all agree that, especially after seeing this list, the Guilmon engine has to go. But until that ban list happens, I hope you guys have fun with it. Now, of course, I do have a version that doesn't use the Guilmon engine when it inevitably does get banned, but that one I'm still working on and potentially saving it for the upcoming in-person regionals in a few months. So I hope you guys can all be patient until then. If you guys enjoy this absolute monstrosity, or just have any other further questions, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Thanks to Avon for sponsoring this video, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye everybody.